What's up, Saber fam? Steven here from Powell's Power Ups. I got an overview video for Camden. This is a client of mine who sent me his Krorssguard. So KR Sabers, if you didn't know, makes a Krorssguard, and it's arguably one of the most screen accurate Krorssguards there are. Very, very great lightsaber, beautiful, wonderful, all of that. Anyway, so Camden, this is your overview video. Sit down, get comfortable. I'm going to go over everything about your saber with you. That way you know how to unbox it, what all the pieces are for, how to properly handle it, what not to do, that way you don't damage it, how to protect your investment, things you should know, stuff like that. So when you unbox it, it's going to look just like this. You're going to have some paperwork on top. This paperwork, zoom in for you. This paperwork, just the first section here talks about configuration of your lightsaber. It says, what force effects are on it, what operating system it uses, what blade styles it uses, and it has the font set up on here that is Krorssguard from K-Sith and Unstable from Kyberphonic, but I have gave it my own tweak and customized it my own way to have it set up with 6 total Kylo Ren fonts, all of which are different hums. They sound different from different movies, different swing sounds. Lots of them have different types of ignitions as well, because we see Kylo Ren's lightsaber have various ignition styles throughout the movies, the sequel trilogy. So that's all there. And then starting here at the bottom and the next several pages are written out operating instructions on how to operate the lightsaber. Pay special attention to them because buttons aren't the only thing that matters on some stuff. Depending on what you're doing, the orientation of the saber matters as well. If you're parallel or facing up, some things work if you're pointing straight up, parallel, or down. So the orientation of the saber, its direction, matters as well. So keep that in mind as you're going through these instructions. So I'm going to set those aside. You'll have those. Then when you remove your foam, you'll have your lightsaber and most of your components on the inside. So here you have your custom made by me unstable side blades. These are NeoPixel. They use mini NeoPixel strips, and they're wrapped in packaging foam, some really thin packaging foam I found online. They're made of a squishy TPU material, 3D printed, so they're super durable and clear, so they're nice, bright, and shiny. There's even holes in them to make them very realistic. You got stock connectors there on the ends. You got your blade plugs, okay? So keep in mind these blade plugs are metal, okay? If you use metal blade plugs inside of your emitters while the saber is powered, you can short and fry all of your electronics. So don't use the metal ones, okay? So I haven't done it yet, but I probably will tonight. Because I do this for all my Darkness V3s, I'm gonna print you some plastic 3D printed covers that just are going to be glued onto the bottom of these so that you can still use them. So I'm going to do that. If I can, I'm not promising anything, but if I can, I'm going to print some that are just going to glue onto this bottom, and I'm going to print them in clear so that light from your version 3 and PXL connectors can shine through them, which will look really awesome. So I'll probably do that, and then you can just get rid of these metal parts, or maybe I'll just keep them for something. So I'm going to print you some clear ones to go on there. I just got to get around to it, probably tonight. But they'll be in this little Ziploc baggie. You're going to get your battery. This is a 21700 big boy battery, 5,000 milliamp hour runtime, max continuous discharge current of 15 amps. So this is going to power your Krorssguard lightsaber, all 3 blades, for quite a while. It is rechargeable and removable. Comes with your charger here, your Nightcore portable USB charger, the UI1 charger, I think. Yeah. So this is going to charge your 21700 battery. So those are the only batteries I recommend using, and here is this particular one. It's a Keep Power brand. And then we have your beautiful Krorssguard, okay? So let's take a look at this. So I really like the paint job. When you sent this to me, it was already painted. I'm not sure who painted it, but it looks and feels really great. Paint's not rubbing off on the hand. We have some tones of copper and some blues on here. The emitters, the paint looks like it's burnt off or whatever, so that's pretty awesome. So I really like that. So I've re-glued down your wire clips. I've installed your wire for you. At the top here, the red wire actually goes into the engine, like you can see there, so it's very realistic. And then we have it going into the engine down here at the bottom as well. The area where your red wire is split for disassembly is right here in this top clip. Okay, the bottom just pulls out like you see there, and the top is actually glued in place. So you just tuck that in and pull it out whenever you want to disassemble, okay? Your blue wire is also glued in place. That's not going to go anywhere. It's glued around the little piece up there, and there's some heat shrink on the bottom of it to keep it together. You got your two buttons here. The top button is power. The bottom button is auxiliary. You got tactile switches in there. Very clicky. They sound great. The bolts on your belt clip were loose, so I tightened those down. I glued on your red pummel cap for you after I installed the lower engine. Let's see what else I did. So I also had to drill the through holes. So you know, the holes here, the inner steel section wasn't drilled through. I had to do that. You only had 2 heat stain screws and then 2 regular ones. I replaced the regular ones with black ones that I had and put them here where it was black. And then your 2 heat stain ones I used on the outside. So you only ever mess with the outside screw. That is the only screw you use for side blade retention. The inner screw you never ever mess with. That is what holds that connector in place. The little holder that holds the connector, those little inner set screws there hold it in place. So you have version 3, stock version 3 NPXL connectors, 16 LEDs on each of your connectors, so they are bright and beautiful. So your emitters still illuminate whenever your blades are out, whenever you fire up the Saber. So that's why I want to print you some clear, bottoms to go on those plugs so that you can have the plugs in there and they'll light up. And they'll be plastic, so you'll be able to use them. The bottom parts will be. All right, so we're going to go into, disassembly. We're going to open up the hilt so you can see the inside of your chassis. Very important point. These 2 side button head screws, the 2 button head screws on the sides right here, and right here, never ever under any circumstances loosen those screws. Don't take them out, leave them alone. The only screw you ever take out is this middle one underneath the button looking thing right here, this middle screw. So for disassembly, we're going to take out that 1 button head screw, which, by the way, where did they go? You also have, I haven't put them in here yet, but you have Allen wrenches that I'm going to give you. I thought yours came with Allen wrenches in it already, but I'm going to give you Allen wrenches. So you got a silver one for your blade retention screws, and you got a black one here for this bolt. So I'll put these in Ziploc bags, and you'll get these as well. If you have a set at home, then you'll just have a spare set. So you only take out this screw, right? You take it all the way out and set it aside, don't lose it. And then you just untuck the red wire. So then we're gonna do a twist, like the handle goes to the left counterclockwise, and then we just slide straight down to reveal your chassis. Now this bottom portion here is just a shell, okay? But there is a 3D printed ring inside of it. This is just a resonance chamber, kind of a spacer that goes, not a spacer, but a resonance chamber that kind of just sits over your speaker at the bottom of your hilt there and kind of helps concentrate the sound and blows it at the bottom a little more efficiently, so we have more more sound coming out the bottom. Super loud Saber. So as you can see here, you got a black 28mm speaker on the bottom. This one's from the Saber Merchant. It's a 8 ohm speaker, 3 watts, so it's super loud. Sounds really great. We got a black 3D printed PLA chassis designed by me. We got that Imperial, first order light panel, Starship light panel design down the side. Got some, accents around the speaker area there. We got some cutouts where the battery section is, some other areas next to some kind of rail system next to the Profi board. So you got a Profi board, black version 2.2. On the contact points where I've soldered wires and such for all of your components, I use what's called liquid electrical tape. It's like electrical tape, but a liquid version that I put over them just to give them an added layer of protection so they don't touch anything in metal. In short, your board is a pressed fit. It presses down into this chassis. It's in there super snug and it won't come out. Don't try to take it out. It won't come out. I'm going to show you how to access your SD card if you would like. Underneath the Profi board down here, we have your OLED screen with something you wanted. It is mounted or glued into this wire cover, which has a little first order emblem on it, something that I designed. So this is a wire cover you can just lift up with your finger. See there, it just lifts up and out of the chassis. And that is how you can access your SD card. It kind of moves up and out of the way. You can get some tweezers, you can access your SD card, or plug into your USB port if you want. That way you can do more configuration and addition of more fonts if you'd like. When you're done, carefully put the SD card back, and then you just take this little wire cover and it just presses down over those wires inside of the chassis like you see there. Pretty simple. It sits flush like that. Okay, on the back side here is your battery compartment and your kill switch. You also said you wanted a kill switch. So when you put your battery in, make sure you do not put it in backwards. That can fry your electronics. So read the label. We got a positive and a negative. The negative side of your battery, which is the flat side, always goes against the spring. The spring is the negative side. So we're going to pop that in. So see, it goes in really easy, and we take it out. When you put it in, you just press against that spring and push the positive end in. And then to take it out, same thing. Press against that spring, pull the positive end up and out. Notice too, as I've been handling this Saber, okay, I've been holding it by the metal hilt side. I'm not handling it by the chassis side, okay? This is a plastic chassis which goes up into a plastic core. So this is susceptible to breaking. Now, I will say this, I do customize my chassis to have a hole in the top of it, and I have an actual metal copper pipe that binds this upper engine and this chassis with set screws inside of it to hold it, all in place and give it some more structural integrity. So it's very beefy. It's not going to wiggle on you or anything like that. It's super sturdy. It may start to wiggle a little tiny bit, which is normal in the Krorssguard, because up here where it pushes up, there's nothing like attaching it, if that makes sense. These side screws here and here hold this metal ring in place, which kind of help to hold the chassis and upper engine pushed up into the hilt. But over time, slowly, this may have a little wiggle or play in it, but right now it's perfect and it's pretty solid, and actually should stay that way if you're only handling the metal portion of the Saber. Don't hold it by the chassis. You don't want to break this in any way. So it's not super delicate, it's not super breakable. I'm just doing my due diligence to warn you to handle it properly by holding the metal portion. So when we put the battery in, again, we're making sure we don't put it in backwards. We're just pushing down against that spring and then popping the battery in. I'm not pushing the battery in like pushing on the chassis, if that makes sense. I'm just pushing against that spring like so. So once you get the battery in there, which preferably is label up, you'll notice it's kind of snug if you have the label down. Once you get that in, you can flip your kill switch. We'll give it power. We get a boot sound. This Kylo Ren's helmet, the sound of his helmet, I have into all of the fonts. I like that sound for a boot sound. We saw Profi OS 6.7 was on there, and then we had those bars were a power level indicator to tell you the current, health of your battery. So right there's our battery level indicator. Okay. So when we press power, all right, there's our NPXL connectors shining brightly. You can hear that speaker rocking. So there it is, it fires up. So I just did it for demonstration purposes, but I do not recommend playing with the Saber while it is disassembled. It's very delicate, exposed in the state. Once you get the battery in and you've showed off the chassis and you're done doing that and you want to actually put the blades in and play with it, then put it back together. Once you've done so, you increase the structural integrity. The Saber is, then able to be played with. So as you're sliding this on, line up the red wire side. And what you're doing is they got little J hooks right here, right? You're lining that up at the side. Okay, you're pushing all the way up. Oop, I forgot to put the ring in. You don't have to have the ring. If it falls out, it's okay, but this does help with sound, so I recommend just dropping it down in there. And then your chassis will push it in the rest of the way. And you notice it makes it super snug. It's perfect. So then you tuck in your red wire, like you see here. You may have to give it a little slack from down below, like that. And then we put in that one screw that we took out. Whoop. And you'll notice once you fire it up with the handle on, it really and you have that resonance chamber, down in the bottom. It really amplifies the sound a lot, and the Saber's super loud.
She's just beginning to test her powers. My boy.
You may have noticed I've done some gesture controls. So not only do you have your buttons to operate, but you can thrust on and you can twist off for your power on and off controls if you don't want to use buttons, which is great for cosplay if you have gloves on and you can't really hit the buttons really well. You can still turn on and off and swing it around. So that's the hilt assembled. We went over the inside, the chassis. We got the battery in, the power's on. It is set on on a timer. After 1 minute, it goes into like an idle mode. It cuts power to the LEDs and the LED pads, and it kind of conserves a little bit of battery for you. It'll last, if your battery's fully charged, it'll last quite a while just sitting there, okay? But it is trying to sense motion. If it detects any motion, then it'll restart that timer. But after 1 minute, it'll go into an idle mode, and then whenever you push your power button, it'll play the boot sound again, which will kind of wake it back up. So that's something to keep in mind. Whenever you put your blades in, okay, your side blades, these are pretty snug. Okay, I made them snug so they don't move around much. So keep in mind as you're doing the side blades, no twisting. You don't want to do any twisting at all for any of your blades. If you twist, then you can possibly bend the pins on your connectors, and you don't want to do that. You only want to press straight in against them, okay? And then you'll notice they're spring-loaded, so there's kind of a springiness there. You want to hold those in and down as you tighten that outer set screw, which is for blade retention. Okay, you don't want to get super tight, just enough to kind of hold it in place. Turn around to the other one, push it straight in. Hold it in as you tighten down the screw. And then you can test. And then you're ready to do the main blade. So I'm going to turn the camera and do that one. All right, so I got the camera turned. I'm going to kill some of these lights for the demo. Let me get your main blade. So here's your main blade. Okay, a couple things about this. It's 36 inches long. About an inch goes into the emitter though, so I think it's about 35. At the base here you have another unstable piece. This is also the same material as the side blades. It's a squishy TPA material. It just kind of helps add an aesthetic to the main blade and helps match the side blades. You have ordered the full unstable main blade, which is still in production. I don't have it yet, but when I get it, I'll inspect it, make sure it looks good, and then I'll ship directly to you. So until then, to keep you satisfied, I'll provide this one. You can have at no extra cost, so you can have both and swap out if you want. This one helps keep, I like this one, it helps keep your blade a little lighter. The full one actually adds a little bit of weight to your saber, so the Krorssguard is big and heavy, which makes it feel a little more realistic, but it can make your wrist tired after a while. The tip, you asked about the tip. So the tip on this is actually threaded. You can unscrew it, okay? And I do have my own tip, which I've printed you one. I'm actually going to print another one, though, because I want it to be just right. I forgot to print it at a lighter infill. But this tip is threaded, just comes off. Okay, and be very careful when you do this because you see your LEDs sticking up. You do have 2 LEDs there that stick up into the tip so that this illuminates as well. Well, here is my unstable tip that's 3D printed clear. Okay, now this doesn't thread in, it just sits in the top. Okay, so I'm gonna provide it to you. You can have it and look at it if you like it, if you want it. Then you can use like hot glue, or E6000 is actually what you can get on eBay that I use in all of my builds. It's like an industrial grade adhesive. It's very rubber-like once it dries, and it peels off easily. Or you can even use a super glue, which is a little more permanent, but you can glue around the outside there, and then you kind of hold it in and let that stuff dry. And this is what the tip would look like. Give it more of a point. And it's that same unstable design that I have on all of my other unstable stuff. So I'll include that as well, but I'm going to print another one though, because this one's at 50% infill. I'm probably going to print you at 10% infill. That way more light can come out of this one. But for the demo, I'm just going to put the regular one back on. But be careful when you do this, because those LEDs are exposed. You don't want to like bend them or push them or crush them, or you don't want to touch them at all. So just be careful and take your time. But I'm going to thread this one back on for the demo. So when you put in your main blade, right, get your little Allen wrench, get your main blade here. When you push it in, no twisting. You do not want to twist. You just want to push straight in and down. And you want to apply some pretty good pressure for the main blade because you want a good solid connection. Okay, and then you're going to tighten it up. I like to actually just use my little wrench so that I don't scratch up the emitters. And then again, you don't want to damage your blade, you just want to get it tight enough that it holds it. So this is pretty snug, but it slides. So once you get your blade in, then just slide it all the way down. And then our Krorssguard is assembled, and then we can fire it up. See that green flicker we had? I don't see it anymore. Sometimes you'll know if your main blade isn't sitting well if you're seeing weird colors on your main blade. That means the data line doesn't have a good connection. So if that's the case, just loosen it. The emitter on this is kind of shallow. Not as shallow as some other sabers, but it is a little shallow. So this can happen from time to time. So take your blade out, maybe twist it, move it a little bit, push it back in. You want it to go all the way down. You want to fill those spring pins. Get a good connection, hold it down tight, and then screw that screw back in. There we go. Alright, so just as another disclaimer, this saber is not meant for dueling. It is not meant for play fighting or anything like that. Don't actually try to play fight or smack anything. I don't even recommend smacking your hand. You can, but really the Profi board is down here in the hilt. That is what's sensing the clashing and stuff. There's no sensor in your blade. So really just take your other hand and slap or bump your hilt, and that's where all your clashing and effects are going to come from, and work better that way too. So I don't recommend any fighting or dueling, just swinging around cosplay. This is a collector's item, okay? So see, I just bumped the hilt with my hand to get my clashes, lock up. Whoop.
Red.
I did that really fast. You can color
Orange,
change.
Red, dark orange, orange, red, red.
lightning block. Right, you got blaster deflection. Lock up. You got tip drag. You have stabbing. You have melting. Whoop. I was twisting and that's why it retracted. Keep in mind, the stabbing and melting and tip drag work best with this tip. If you try to put this tip on and do those, you're either going to crack and break this tip, or because it's sharp, you might put a hole in your wall or somebody. So be careful if you're doing that with that tip. Couple other features. You saw the twist off. Here's the thrust on. Right? If you're, depending on the font, not all fonts have this. You'll have to refer to your paperwork, but I'm going to go to TFA from K-Civ.
Show me again. The power of the darkness.
Some of your fonts have all three blades come on at once, simultaneous ignition if you're facing up, like so. And then if you're facing down, you get your staggered. Right? And I put as many combinations of the staggered ignitions as I could in this Saber, so you have that set.
I'll show you the dark side.
The second font is another TFA, but no matter which direction, it has just a really long staggered ignition, the longest one there is. You have the alternate hum on that one.
I know what I have to do.
So this is the Last Jedi. We have simultaneous if up, staggered if down.
I killed Snoke. I'll kill you.
This one has an all-around quick staggered, so the second blades come on a little bit after the main, but it's so quick it's hard to tell. That's how it does in the movie. This is my favorite one right here. This is the Rise of Skywalker by K-Civ. This one just sounds the most alive to me. Force effects.
I know the rest of your story.
So whenever you trigger a force effect in all of your fonts, you get quotes from that movie. So each of your paperwork's going to tell you which movie, those fonts are from. So the quote, the Rise of Skywalker, your quotes when you trigger a force effect will be from Rise of Skywalker. You also have, I don't know if I can get it to work, but OS 7 also 6.7 also has a force push now, which sometimes I can get it to work, sometimes I can't. It's there, it's just difficult to figure out. But if you're holding the saber straight up while it's on and you just do like a forward push, you get a force sound come out. I'm gonna try it. And the blade flashes too, I think. I'm gonna look real dumb trying this. I don't even know why my other hand is up. There it goes. You also have background tracks that you can activate while your blade is off. It's your power button. You do a long press will enter the track menu. So once you're in the track menu, you rotate to find the track you want. There's several of them. There's even a battle, like a battling background sound with TIE fighters and stuff. And then once you find the one you want, you keep it there and you tap the power and you'll hear a little beep sound or a little boop sound, and that locks it in. Then your saber goes back to normal operation. You can ignite it while it's playing that background track. So it's like you're on the battlefield. Just do a long press when the blade is off to make that stop. I think you can do it while the blade is on too to turn it off. I'll try. Nope. It's got to be off. And then a long press. So there it is, man. This is your saber. It is finished and done. I will get this boxed up probably ship out tomorrow after I print you the other tip tonight, and I got to do those blade plug covers on the bottom. So thanks for choosing me to install it. Hope you enjoy it when you get it. It's definitely one of a kind. I really like that paint job. I've seen a lot of Krorssguards, but I ain't seen this paint job yet, and I like it a lot. So take care of it. Thanks for choosing me. May the force be with you.